do want to go ahead and I want to move on to the first part of my stream today, Chad. And that is my review, my non-spoiler review for Black Panther. Black Panther. No. I want to go ahead. I want to move on to my non-spoiler review for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Kind of give you a bit of a premise of the movie for those of you who are kind of unaware. It takes place sometime after Avengers Endgame. King T'Challa has succumbed to a deadly disease, leaving Wakanda's future in question. Princess Shuri's grappling with her brother's death, blaming herself for not being able to save him, while her mother is trying to keep the prying hands of various global powers off of Wakanda's enormous vibranium reserves. Meanwhile, you have the empire of Tolokan, led by the ruthless Namor, who is attacking the surface world in retaliation for encroaching on Tolokan's borders. As I said earlier today on DT Gameplay and also Discord Discourse, I can't imagine the difficulty of making this film on both Ryan Coogler, the cast, the various other filmmakers who were a part of it. First and foremost, you're dealing with the death of not just your lead actor of your film, right? But your close friend, your family member. Being able to take that grief and sadness and coursing it through your film's narrative must have been very hard for everyone involved. Thankfully, Coogler and everyone else honor both Chadwick Boseman and the character of T'Challa, throughout the entire movie. His presence is felt throughout the entire film as these characters, deal with their grief, their sadness, their anger, their bitterness. They're wanting to burn down the world because of what happened. And the subtitle Wakanda Forever is a very appropriate subtitle. As it's focused on the people and the supporting cast of the previous Black Panther movie, especially with Letitia Wright and Angela Bassett in elevated roles. Both of them do, I think, a fantastic job as they take on much more responsibility in the film's narrative, along with just kind of the heavy emotional weight that goes with that. They each get multiple scenes where they're commanding the room. We also see Shuri elevated to a certain role in the film, and throughout the film, she earns that role, in my opinion. Now, but forgive me if I'm saying this actress's name wrong. I always feel like I'm saying it wrong. Danai Gurira, who plays Okoye, and Lupita Nyong'o, who plays Nakia, are also given a lot more to do. We see how they're dealing with their grief, and just the central conflict of the film dealing with the Tolokans, who are the Atlanteans. Basically, it's the MCU's adaptation of Atlantis. They wanted to change it from the comics, to differentiate it from Aquaman. You get a nice you also get a nice explanation as to why Nakia was absent during the events of Infinity War and Endgame as well. And I feel like most people are going to be pretty pleased with that explanation. It's going to make them very happy. Emotional, but very happy. In terms of, new characters making their live action debut, Tenoch Huerta as Namor is absolutely superb. As is the introduction of the Tolokans as this hidden, powerful underwater civilizations. The Tolokans, they get a very creepy and disturbing horror movie-esque introduction. One I just didn't really expect, and I love what they did with that. I thought it really establishes them as a threat in the film. It's just very ominous. I loved how they did that. Namor also gets so much depth and backstory in this movie, and his ruthlessness is on full display. You understand his motivations. You learn so much about his history, but you also realize this guy is so completely dangerous and vicious. It was pointed out during Discord Discourse, and Deadpool was correct about this. He has a God complex, but at the same time, some of the best moments with him are just via his conversations. with Queen Ramonda, with Shuri. I love that. Recently, the other superhero film that I reviewed that a lot of people have seen is Black Adam. And I think that movie's absolute fucking shit. Now that, like, after seeing, like, a really good superhero film so soon after seeing something like Black Adam, it just really puts in perspective how fucking terrible Black Adam is as a movie. Because all that movie is action scene after action scene after action scene after action scene. There's no depth, barely any depth for any characters. The only person who I feel like is doing anything interesting or fun is probably Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate. But one of the most frustrating aspects of Black Adam, which has so many frustrating aspects, but like the villain of that movie has no depth whatsoever. There's nothing to them. It's just big red Satan ShamWow guy. I think I called him ShamWow. And that's it. Like here, I love that we get so many conversations between Namor and Shuri, between Namor and Queen Ramonda. All that was great. I love that. And we learn so much about him, we get to learn about his character. But at the same time, we realize, like, oh, how dangerous this person actually is. And I love that. I love that about it. Him and the Tolokans and their whole ancient civilization, like their civilization, the aesthetic of it, like how they use the Mesoamerican culture in terms of the production design, very well thought out, very interesting to look at. Really, really love that. And the action scenes too, like everyone who was like, yeah, I don't know about those, those wings on his ankles. Those wings on his ankles are fucking badass shit. The way he moves around in this movie is great. And really also the action scene. I have to say, if I had a big criticism of the original Black Panther movie, I really didn't like the action in it for the most part. I liked the scene in Saw. I thought that was good. But outside of that, especially towards the third act of the original Black Panther, it felt so CGI heavy. It felt weightless. It felt like Rubber Man versus Rubber Man. CGI Rubber Man versus CGI Rubber Man. I just didn't care for it. Here, I feel like the Ryan Coogler has more confidence when it comes to the action, shooting the action. It looks a lot better. And the third act, especially, I think the third act in this movie is much stronger than the third act in Black Panther. And the fight sequences and the choreography are fantastic in my opinion. Now I do have a couple of complaints. I wouldn't say that they're too harsh though. Winston Duke, he returns as M'Baku in this movie and he's great, but he's not in it a lot. He's kind of now like the uncle, to the royal family. And I really like how they set that up, but I wanted more of that. Like every time he's on screen, he's very charming. He's very funny. There's just not enough of him. Now, maybe they didn't know how people would react to the character or realize how popular it actually was. But I feel like I could have done with more of M'Baku. And maybe we'll get that in another film. But thankfully, the scenes that he does get, he's very good. He's great. He's great. Love him. Now, you have two other characters in the movie. And while they're not bad, like the actors, specifically Dominique Thorne, who plays Riri Williams, Ironheart, and Martin Freeman, who returns as Agent Everett Ross, like they're good in the movie. They have chemistry with the actors. They give very good performances. It's just in the grand scheme of things, like for the central plot, they kind of feel superfluous. They, like Riri Williams maybe less so than Martin Freeman because she is kind of a plot device at one point in the movie. Although compared to something like, I think it was brought up, America Chavez in Doctor Strange, where I didn't feel like anything they did with America Chavez was very interesting or stood out, in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. At least with Riri Williams, she has that personality. I love her chemistry with Okoye and Shuri and Queen Ramonda. Like all that's good. Like she's good with those actors and I want to see more of her. But there comes a point in the film where it's like, yeah, you don't really need to be here anymore, other than the fact that you're just trying to set up, your spinoff, your Disney Plus series, which we know we're getting in the next year, several years or so. And the same thing with Martin Freeman. It's like, I mean, he's returning from obviously he was in Civil War, Captain America Civil War, and the first Black Panther chat. He has a connection to Wakanda, and he's good, and he has that chemistry, like I said, much in the same way that Dominique Thorne does as Riri Williams. But again, it's like you could cut his stuff out, and we'd still have the same movie. And his presence there is to set up another Marvel movie in the future. I'm not going to say what it is because it also involves another character, but it's like, okay, I know what you're doing here. I know what you're trying to set up. And it just feels necessary. Not bad, not like, oh, this is horrible to watch. It's just, yeah, you don't need this. You can cut this. And the movie's already pretty long. Like, I didn't really feel the running time. And it's a long movie, Chad. It's about almost 3 hours, like 2 hours, 40 plus minutes. You know, it's a long movie. I think it's what the third longest Marvel movie yet. I think just behind the last two Avengers, I believe, Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. I could be wrong, but it's up there. It's up there. It's in the top 5 longest films. And I didn't feel that running time. I thought it was paced really well. Felt like 95% of the scenes that they had in the movie had importance and need to be there. And they service the character motivations and the main plot line very, very, very well. That was great. Kind of getting more into the characters, like Letitia Wright. I know a controversial figure because of what, her statements on, vaccine and health and all that. That aside, her performance as Shuri is fantastic. Like, this is not the same Shuri that we saw in the first Black Panther. Kind of that plucky, sarcastic, though very intelligent, little sister. Or, in the small roles that she had in Infinity War and Endgame. She's a very different character in this. Because she has to be. She's angry at herself. She's grieving. She's bitter. She doesn't know the kind of person that she wants to be anymore. And she carries that frustration throughout the rest of the movie. Until she realizes what she needs to do. Even when she realizes what she needs to do and she becomes this certain thing, it's like, I don't know if you're doing this for the right reasons. And I like how that plays out throughout the rest of the movie. She does it very well. She earns her role. That's what I'm going to say. She earns it, Chad. She does a great job in the movie. As does Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda. You've already seen the trailers and some of the little snippets of those scenes. Seeing them play out in their full context, it's excellent. Because now, again, much like Shuri, she's dealing with the grief, the fact that so much of her family is dead. Her husband, her son. She's now fully in this leadership position, and she's trying to keep not only the outside powers. It also puts into perspective how the world views Wakanda. And you thought it's going to be pretty positive after, the events of the first Black Panther and Infinity War and Endgame. Nope, it's not. It's like, I love the socio-political aspects this movie brings up. And it's like, yeah, it's probably how it would have worked, and how mistrustful and conniving the rest of the world is when it comes to Wakanda and the fact that they want vibranium. And Wakanda's not willing to part with that. And the things that they do to try to get it. I love that. And she's dealing with that. And she's also dealing with all the infighting and confusion within Wakanda itself about what are we doing with what's the power structure now? What about the throne? But Black Panther. There's no more of the heart shaper. What's going to happen? All that. She's dealing with this. And she is also dealing with the fact that she's a wife that lost her husband, and she's a mother that lost her son, and all that at the same time. She gives a fantastic performance in this movie. And like I said, with Okoye coming back, what she's been dealing with, she does a great job. Amazing action scenes with her. Really love the choreography, but also Lupita Nyong'o with Nakia. I don't want to say too much with her character, but great scenes throughout the entire movie. Excellent chemistry of everyone. I feel like people are going to be really happy with the explanation as to why she was absent in Infinity War and Endgame. It's like, that makes sense. It's like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And again, Chad, as I said before, Tenoch Huerta as Namor. He's like, I want to see more of him. I cannot wait to see more of Namor throughout the MCU. He is. Namor in the comics, he's a dick, he's an asshole just because, in this movie, you understand why Namor is the way he is. It's okay, I can kind of see why you're so overprotective, but at the same time, why he has this fucking massive ego, because his people literally think he's a god. And because of that, he has this god complex. He's like, well, anything I say, that's how it has to be. We're going to enter in this alliance, and if we don't, I'll just kill you and your entire fucking family. But he says it, the thing is, he doesn't say it like, he just says it matter-of-factly, we're having a simple conversation about the weather. That's what it is with him. And I really, Really like that. I cannot wait to see more of Namor and his interactions with the various other heroes and villains of the MCU, because he goes back and forth, and he does some nasty shit in this movie, chat, and it's like, oh fuck. I like that. I like he's a very complicated person and character. But yeah, everyone else gives a very Kukul Khan. That's what his people refer to him as, the feathered serpent god. That's what his friends call him, and his enemies call him Namor. A lot of people call him Namor in the movie. Namor. But everyone else is a great performance. Again, Dominique Thorne and Martin Freeman, they did a good job, but their issue is not their acting at all. It's a script writing thing with them. It's like they're just not necessary to the main story of the plot line. You could exercise them, and you still have a great movie, very good movie. So, but still they do a good job. They do a good job. But yeah, overall, chat, I feel like this is a very personal movie from Ryan Coogler. I mean, what he and everyone else working on this film had to deal with, but using that grief and creating something I think really special, really beautiful. I mean, you're gonna most likely you're gonna have an emotional reaction watching this movie several times. Whether it's in the beginning, whether it's towards the end, even these other little small moments in the film, chat, like Chadwick Boseman's presence, even though he's not in the movie, he's felt throughout it. T'Challa's felt throughout it. And I really like that. Like, his death has these ramifications. His impact on all these people is felt and explored with a lot of just reverence. And yeah, it's a very beautiful and well told story. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the future with the Black Panther series and just these characters and how they interact with the rest of the MCU. But yeah, I thought it was a very good movie. Chad addressed a number of issues I had with the original Black Panther. Has some issues maybe in terms of its screenwriting with a couple of characters, but even then, it's just like they're not bad. They're not bad. It's just they felt a little unnecessary. They just felt like, all right, that just feels like you're trying to spin off some stuff, which that's what they're doing. I see. I know exactly what they're doing. But yeah, I think it's a great movie. Definitely a great way to end Phase 4 cinematically. And one of the stronger films in Phase 4. I think this and Spider-Man No Way Home are, definitely the best of this phase so far. But that's just my general opinions on the film, chat. I walked away really liking it. If I had to give it a rating, I suppose on the double toasted scale, I would give it a high full price, chat. I would give this movie a high full price. I thought it was excellent. They did a really good job in the film.